All right, great. Welcome everyone. Nasif, are you there?
Yes, Mark, I'm here.
Oh, excellent, excellent. I like your photo, Nasif. It's nice. It looks like Kathy used my grade 12 photo. Uh,
This one, you mean the one behind me?
yeah, I know yours looks good. It looks much better than
Ah,
mine.
okay. Uh, yeah, thank you very much for that. Yeah,
Oh,
I was thinking to have it done for some time, but since you guys had to ask me to do it, so I used this
mhm,
opportunity to get it done.
there you go.
Yeah,
All right, well, let's give everybody just a few moments here to come through the virtual door and to get seated and get comfortable. And again, we're all very excited about this webinar today. It's a bit of a different speed, a different flavor. You know, we've kind of focused mostly on our products on AppSource, so this is on the services side of the business. So we're quite excited.
yeah, definitely.
So we'll let give everyone a few. I can see that the attendees are just rolling in, and Kathy, just let me know when you'd like me to get started, and we'll kick it off.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I think it's good to get started now. We have lots of people who have joined, so I think you're good to
Wonderful.
go.
Okay, well, let's, I guess without further ado, let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to our webinar, 5 Signs Your Organization Needs a Dynamics 365 Health Check. My name is Mark Buchmann, and I am your host today. Now, we have a very special guest joining us all the way from Dubai. Now, I don't know what time it is exactly, maybe quite late, but Nasif, thank you so much for joining us for this webinar.
Thanks, Max, and thanks, EFOQUS, for having me.
Now, you must be wondering to yourself, did I attend the right webinar? We've got a new logo, we've got all new colors, and we're very, very pleased. This is actually a soft launch of our new branding, and we really do hope that you guys like it, so please do send your feedback. Now, this webinar is targeted towards existing users of Dynamics NAV and Business Central, both new and old. Now, let's first cover off the objectives. We are here to discover what the most critical factors are to run your ERP system effectively. We're going to talk about healthy system practices, best practices, as well as tips and tricks that we're going to provide you. And of course, finally, we are going to learn more about our customer Kemipex and their story as well. So we've got a very, very exciting webinar for you today. Now, let's first cover off the agenda. I'm going to talk a little bit about EFOQUS, who we are and what we do. We are then going to dive into more of Kemipex's story and where they are today. We're going to interview Nasif as well to learn more about his experience with us. And then finally, we are going to wrap it up in a live Q&A. But first, we have a few housekeeping items. We would like this webinar to be as interactive as possible, so please do get your questions in the Q&A panel. We're also on social media, so come find us. We are active with LinkedIn and Twitter at EFOQUS and hashtag ERP Health Check. Help us spread the good word. And finally, at the end of this webinar, we will have a short 2-minute survey. We highly value your feedback. We are always looking at refining things and doing things better. So please, we would love to hear your thoughts. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about EFOQUS. So take a deep breath. Our client-first approach to technology projects means that we take a genuine interest in your business and your success, delivering the to your namaste. Our company was founded by a 7-time Microsoft MVP. We are experts in Business Central and CRM. We help companies just like yours with digital transformation. We help companies become leaner and meaner, more efficient and effective through use of technology. One of our clients, Josh Hepner from Absolute Results, said it best. There are a lot of bad vendors in this space. EFOQUS is categorically different. I only wish we met them 12 months before we did. Now, before I jump into the introductions, this webinar is again focused on Dynamics Nav and Business Central users, both new and old. So my name is Mark Buchmann. Again, very pleased to be your host today. And Nasif, thank you so much for joining us. Nasif is an IT manager from Kemipex. And Nasif, would you like to say hello to the audience here?
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks EFOQUS for having me. And hi, everybody. And I'm Nasif Reyal. I'm the IT manager for Kemipex FZD. Kemipex group of companies has a legacy of over 50 years, and we are headquartered in Dubai, UAE. And we have regional presence in India, Singapore, Germany, Nigeria, Brazil, and even South Africa. We cater to many different industries such as lubricants, paints and coatings, and rubber and food, plastic industries. Since I joined Kemipex in 2017, we have grown from 30 plus employees to now more than 80 employees now. And we are comprised of 20 different nationalities. We speak 25 different languages. And we have grown from $40 million revenue in 2017 to projected revenue of $100 million by end of 2021. And we also projected to grow to $135 million by end of 2023. And we have around 1,500 SKUs, and we manufacture tailor-made products specific to customer requirements. Kemipex is a customer-driven company, which led us to EFOQUS to ensure as a company we continuously improve and meet our customer demands and industry standards.
Well, thank you so much, Nasif, for sharing. And you know, I have been in the industry with Dynamics Nav and Business Central for nearly 20 years. I always find it really interesting and exciting to hear about companies that are leveraging Business Central. And I really, again, do appreciate you sharing more. So I do, actually brings us to our first poll for today. So this is going to be a question to the audience here. What is the current state of your Dynamics 365 Business Central or Nav at your organization? So Kathy, if you wouldn't mind opening up the poll and see if we can get everyone to look for their mouses, maybe put their coffees down, and let's see if we can get some answers in here. We have 3 different options. We have our system is in tip-top shape. That would be ideal. The room for improvement is an option 2. And again, third option, not in good shape. So in other words, good, bad, and ugly. How about that? So we'll give everyone here a few moments to get in their answers. So Kathy, maybe we'll give it about 5 seconds and then we'll just wrap it up. That's great. Okay, so it looks like the poll results are in, and that looks like there is room for improvement. And certainly this seems to be the case with a lot of new prospects that we meet. And I guess it's the analogy in life is that there's always room for improvement. I guess that's a pretty fair thing to say. So let's move on. Thank you, Kathy, for that. Now, let's quickly talk a bit about the 5 signs that your organization needs a health check. So very quickly, number 1, you're having an issue keeping up to date with the latest version of Business Central. And this is going to be especially true if you're on premise, and especially true if you have quite a few customizations. Number 2 is you're experiencing performance issues. And performance issues can be related to a lot of different things. Perhaps maybe some old data needs to be archived, or potentially it could be an issue with a poor quality extension or customization. So again, also indicative that your organization needs a health check. Extensions and processes. If you haven't been regularly reviewing your customizations, as we know, has a life cycle. As the application gets updated with new features and releases. Sometimes these customizations are no longer relevant. And again, business processes are constantly evolving. So again, if you haven't reviewed it, it's time to do a review. Number 4 is always a very common one, is that you're having issues with reporting. Either it's too complicated, too difficult to string together reporting across different entities, or perhaps it's inaccurate, or we have some inventory reconciliation balance issues perhaps. And then finally, number 5 is a review of your Dynamics user security to protect yourself against from cyber attacks or even rogue employees, for example. So again, these are the 5 signs that your organization needs a health check. So let's talk a little bit about the approach to our health check. So really the approach comprises of 2 main elements. We will conduct a functional review of your ERP processes through discovery workshops. So we will work with your department heads or SMEs or subject matter experts to understand your processes, understand how the solution has been configured in the application, and we look for improvement opportunities and gaps, and all of this is documented. We also do the same from a technical aspect as well. We will look at any possible integrations that you might have. We will look at the customizations and the quality of those, the number of the customizations and the quality of those customizations as well. And we also will look for improvement opportunities. So all of this is wrapped up in a summary document. Now, let's learn a little bit more about Kemipex and their story. So Nasif, I have prepared a few questions for you. So can you tell us a little bit more? So what was the state of your Business Central prior to the health check?
So prior to the health check, we actually recognized we have a problem in our Business Central. So we had a heavily customized Business Central, and we have recovered from a disastrous implementation. And however, we still had a doubt whether the system is correct, the data is correct, and the processes are correct or not. Should we go for the implementation to fix the problem? And also, we didn't have confidence in our data, and we always second guessing the data generated from the system, and our sub ledgers were not matching with our general ledgers. So we have a lot of problems in these regards. And also we wanted to improve the usability of the system and improve the efficiency of the system, company, and the team itself. So, so we needed some improvement there as well. So this was the state prior to the health check, actually.
Okay, thank you, Nasif, for sharing. Now, Nasif, what specific issues were you guys having before the health check?
As I said earlier, so we recovered from disastrous implementation, actually. So we wanted to understand if we really recovered from the problem, or do we have any underlying problems that we didn't identify yet? Or so we needed a benchmark to understand if the system is healthy or not. Also, prior to the health check, we were unable to do any reconciliation of our inventory. Our interim accounts were not matching with the GRN accounts. Our inventory accounts were not matching with subledgers of the inventory. So in that regard, also we were very much in a problematic situation. Also, with the intercompany functions in the system, we had a lot of limitations. So like profit understanding of intercompany and transaction between intercompany. So we have a little limitations in that regards also. Also, we needed to take Business Central to the next level. Even though the partner at the time had helped us to recover the system from a disastrous implementation, they were unable to take Business Central to the next level or improve the Business Central as per our requirements. So we needed a solution for that as well. And also, until that point in time, we have managed to accumulate 42 extensions, which caused a lot of problems with the updates, and the updates won't run when it's supposed to run, and we had to get in touch with Microsoft, and they have to solve the problem. That was a lot of issues, and also the performance was very much low, and we ran into some problems randomly. and also some of the basic configurations were not done properly. So these were the issues we had prior to the health check.
Okay, thank you, Nasif. And so what were the desired outcomes then from the health check once you were able to find us here at EFOQUS?
So what we wanted from the health check was to get an expert opinion to whether or not to go for implementation, or maybe can we make some adjustment to the system and make it work and make it run on its full potential without implementation. So we needed an answer from an expert. And also we knew the upgrade problems were caused by the extension, but we didn't know how to fix the problem. And unfortunately, the partners at the time also didn't know how to fix the problem without affecting the importance area of the system. And also, we definitely wanted a solution for the inventory discrepancy. Because our team was definitely in the dark when it comes to inventory. We couldn't do inventory planning. We were very much hesitant to make payments to the inventory suppliers. So we needed a solution for that also. And also, Kemipex is rapidly growing. So we understood that we needed to work on compliances and processes, or if not, then we will be in big trouble in the future. So these were the outcomes we were expecting out of the health check.
It's interesting to see if it sounds like you had the $1 million question, do we re-implement or not? And that was probably the big thing, of course, the hunt for some improvement opportunities. And then it sounds like you also had some very specific issues to actually resolve that were all kind of already pre-identified. So that's wonderful. Appreciate you sharing. Now, to talk a little bit more about Kemipex and what we discovered. So again, in Kemipex's case, we discovered 38 improvement opportunities covering both the technical and the functional side. Now, in order to present this back to their management team to make sense of it all, we worked with them on both a prioritization. So in terms of, what is the highest priority to the lowest priority. And then we also categorized the different discoveries, improvement opportunities from either a no action or a severity of low, medium, or high as well. And this information was, well received because it allowed them to really focus in on what was needed and most important at the time. So of that, that's a great segue into the next question, which were, what were the key recommendations that came back from the ERP Health Check?
So EFOQUS actually identified 3 key recommendations immediately after the health check, and one of them being the inventory valuation and reconciliation. And finally, EFOQUS has managed to crack the problem. It turns out to be the auto cost posting and the generals passed on to the control account. So we immediately took it and worked on it. And also the EFOQUS came with recommendation to enhance the existing intercompany modules to improve the overall functions to meet our requirements. And also to work on the extension, to update the extensions, remove the complexity, and reduce the number of extensions, and also to improve the quality of the extensions. So yeah, definitely we took these 3 recommendations immediately and we took the recommendation immediately.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. So if we were to jump into a few other of the health check recommendations, we also identified some opportunities around refining the user security, improvements in the GL configuration. So GL categories were not in use. And so again, that would help with the enhanced reporting and analysis. As mentioned, we had some performance issues that we believe were related to the extensions as well. There was some extensions that had interdependency issues, as well as the sheer number of them as well. And so we wanted to get them back to best practice. We also introduced GL budgeting, as well as some fixes for inventory reconciliation. Now, Nasif, since you guys have implemented these health check recommendations, how has Kemipex benefited?
We have managed to reduce the number of extensions from 42 to 3. So after the analysis, we recognized 27 of the extensions out of 42 were not in use or not useful to us. So we removed them completely, and we identified 8 critical extensions, and we merged them into one. And also we identify 4 modules which has to be kept separately, and we kept them separately. So now we have finally managed to keep only 3 dedicated extensions.
Wow.
And also the inventory has accuracy has improved, and the finance team, logistics team, and even the management is very much confident with the data we get from the system, and they're very happy with the data we get from the system. And also we nowadays we do monthly reconciliation of our books, and since the health check we haven't had any problems with the inventory, so that's a very big win for us. And also now we have very seamless report across all companies, and intercompany reports are very much seamless right now.
That's great, Nasif. And so just a quick note around the extensions. And have you guys noticed a performance, increased performance since you guys have?
Yeah, definitely. And right now we don't have any updates issues as well. Like I don't know the last time I called Microsoft to get my updates running properly. So that's been a win as well.
Yeah, well, we know that at least there's 2 major updates for Business Central Cloud a year. And again, if your extensions are not managed in the right way, it can certainly create some issues, absolutely. And again, for the intercompany reducing transactions, that was related to a modification or customization we did to that. So that's fantastic. So thank you again, Nasif, for sharing. Now, I guess the golden question is, why did you choose to work with us at EFOQUS?
Actually, that's a very interesting question, Mark. So what had happened was that we have already exhausted all our existing resources, and we needed more from Business Center, but our partner at the time was unable to deliver. And also, until that point in time, all the resources we used were mostly local. So we needed a new perspective, like a global perspective. We needed someone new to come and have a look at the system and say whether the system is healthy or not. We needed some validations and feedback from some experts, and a fresh set of eyes. And also, while doing research to find a new partner, I accidentally stumbled upon Eric Hogarth's YouTube channel. Being a Business Central developer myself, and when I saw the content of Eric's YouTube video, I was really amazed. I knew Business Central is a very flexible and customizable platform, but I didn't know the capabilities could reach to this level of flexibility until I saw Eric Hogarth's YouTube video. Then I reached out to him through LinkedIn, and he got in touch with me with Lars, and that's how the journey began actually.
This is a perfect example of a COVID relationship. So we meet online through, some sort of online social media platform. So it's interesting. Shameless plug for Eric Hogarth. He does have his own YouTube channel. I think it even might be more popular than our EFOQUS channel. But anyways, that is another topic altogether. But very interesting story. Always like to know how things come to be, and that's wonderful. So you found us through YouTube.
YouTube, yeah, definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about the project takeaways from the Kemipex Health Check. And so, we had the opportunity to work with Nasif, Sunil, and a few others from Kemipex, and I think we were blown away. They were incredibly bright, incredibly gifted, very good in the application itself. A lot of times training or knowledge gaps tends to be the issue, not in this case at all. Developing these ERP best practices takes time up front, and especially when you come from a fairly disastrous implementation to start, you can't really see the forest from the trees, let's say. And so again, I think they've done an incredible job of sort of instilling these best practices, and they reached out. They wanted that global opinion. They wanted to come out and get some expert opinion on the outside to say, hey, you guys are on the right track. Here are some areas that we can improve. And but again, I think that was a key takeaway. And then, of course, there's the need around, again, talking about that ongoing review of your business system practices and customizations. You want to scrutinize how things are, always ask questions. And again, all of this can help you reduce complication, streamlines the updates, causes less issues. So those were some of the key takeaways. Now, this actually brings us now, we're going to put it back to the audience. We got our poll number 2. And we're going to talk a little bit about your biggest challenge faced you're facing in Business Central or Nav today. So Kathy, if you could so please, let's open up the lines here, the polls, and let's everyone put down their cup of joe again if you can, and let's see if we can get some interaction here with the polls. So let's go take a quick look at the questions here. Number one, we have too many customizations. I think I've heard that one before. We're struggling to remain current on the latest version. And finally, number three, our ERP processes need an overhaul. And finally, all of the above. So we'll give everyone a few moments to get in their answers. Kathy, well, I think we'll just give it maybe about 5 more seconds and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, so it looks like the poll results are in and our ERP processes need an overhaul. And, I think that that's definitely what we see out in the marketplace as well, is that, once companies have implemented and, their staff become comfortable with how things are, it's pretty rare that, you have some reviews of how you're leveraging the system. And again, all about that improvement opportunity to do more and to leverage more of Business Central. I think all of us can agree that with most of these installations of Dynamics 365 Business Central, very little of the application is actually used. It's a very, very powerful tool. And a lot of times we find companies using manual processes to do things that can easily be done in the system. So thank you guys all for your participation in that. And let's jump back to the show here. So we're going to talk a little bit about some ERP best practices. So again, we talked about the need to conduct an independent ERP health check. Look, we are not the only Microsoft partner that offers health checks. So again, do your homework, look for a qualified Microsoft partner to do this type of service, provide you guys some expert insight into best practices. Of course, we all know to stay up to date with updates is always the best way to approach your ownership of Business Central. Again, being up to date means that you have all of the latest features and functions. And again, really the key there is to get with Business Central Cloud. I mean, we're pushing all of our customers as much as we can to the cloud. I think we may have a few stragglers left, but there are a ton of benefit. Again, review your extensions regularly. I just want to make a very quick note about the old days. So back in the days of Dynamics Nav, you needed a very expensive license to be able to, for example, make some customizations in certain transactional tables, for example. It was all pretty locked down. Today, with Business Central Cloud, it is essentially open. No longer do you need that expensive license. Pretty much anyone that can do coding can create an extension. So on one hand, it is very powerful and it gives the customer like yourself a lot of choice to find a good resource. On the flip side, if that person doesn't understand the best practices with developing these customizations, it can hurt and hinder you more than help you. And so again, you want to be careful about who you invite to the dinner table. And finally, we can't stress enough that an ERP strategy that promotes ongoing staff training. A shameless plug here for NewView Strategies. We work with a Microsoft partner in the US that focuses very specifically on adult learning and instructor-led classes for Dynamics Business Central. We do have a discount code with them. We're happy to share that with you. So again, at the conclusion of this webinar, I want you to find us at info@efocus.ca. Be happy to pass on that discount code to you. Now let's talk a little bit about some reasons for common ERP problems. And number one, and that's a perfect segue, is training gaps are common. That probably is the number one reason. Again, if you are not trained or up to speed or feel comfortable with the application, you're not going to ask questions or want to learn more. You're just going to do the job or do what's asked of you. So again, it is vitally important that companies just like yourself have a strategy around ongoing training, not just a one-time thing. This should be a rhythm. In addition to that, like I said, Business Central is a very powerful application and not fully utilized. Very few companies actually utilize more than 50% of its capability. So again, if you have a knowledge gap, you're not going to know about different features and functions that you could possibly take advantage of in the system, especially from an automation perspective. You know, we can integrate your EFT payments with your bank. We can roll out you know, workflows for purchase and sales approvals, for example. All of these things that, you know, could traditionally be done outside the system. We talked about the technical barrier for customizations being low. So again, be very careful about who you invite into your system. And then finally, excess customizations. Again, you know, it's easy to be able to create extensions, but again, low quality ones can very much affect your system performance. So again, be very careful. So this actually brings us now to the final portion of our webinar. We're going to have a live Q&A. So if you have not already submitted any questions into the Q&A panel, let's take this moment to do that now. And I'm just going to open up the control panel to see, Kathy, do we, let's maybe take a quick look to see if we have any questions from the audience at this point.
Absolutely, Mark. So we have quite a few questions in. We still have a few more minutes left. So if anyone hasn't asked their question yet, please feel free to submit it. But let's get started with the questions that we have so far.
Okay.
So the first one we have Sarah, and she is wondering, how long does a health check typically take from start to finish?
That's a great question. We've designed the health check to be very efficient and as least disruptive to the business as possible. From the very first kickoff to the presentation, it's generally about 4 to 6 weeks.
That's great, Mark. Thank you. The next question we have here, John is wondering, he says, we have a very lean IT team. So there's actually a couple of questions that have come in around this. People are wondering what resources are required for the ERP Health Check.
Oh, that's a great question. So when it comes to the functional review, we like to work with department heads or SMEs or subject matter experts. Generally speaking, we will conduct usually between 3 and 5 discovery workshops, and they can range in length between 1 and 3 hours. But again, it's more front loaded. We will also do the same thing with the technical team as well. And it's generally just, let's just call it an administrator that we would work with. But essentially, we just need to, for the client to open the kimono, we will do our technical review. Sometimes we have the technical person sitting with us. And normally we like to have that a contact from the company there, so we can sort of play back in real time exactly what we're finding. But to answer the question again, mostly front end loaded. Again, most of it is done within a week, between 3 and 5 different sessions, and ranges between 1 and 3 hours, depending on you know, the size of the application, how big the footprint is, and the processes as well. So hopefully that answers your question.
That's great, Mark. Thank you. We have another one here. It's from Julio, and it looks like this one is for Nasif. The question is, what benefits has the IT team at Kemipex experienced since the health check?
One of them being confidence, actually, especially towards the IT team. The management, even the finance team, are more confident, and they're like easy to work. They're like more easy towards us. And also the confidence towards the data, that is also actually makes your life easy, especially being an IT person, because now you don't have to take a lot of time to explain to you why it's correct. Now you can directly get to the point and say, yeah, the data is correct because of this. And so that saves a lot of time in the confidence areas also. So these are, and also for future, when you're working on some other activities and all, then prior to the health check, we always have to think about a lot of things. So those things are like eliminated. So you can shave off, let's say you have 20 points to think about, like you can shave off 10 points and you can focus on only another 10 points. So this sort of like gives easy working environment and confidence. So these are like the benefits of we got from the health check actually.
That's great, Nasif. Thank you. We have a question here. There are kind of two questions together from Maddie, and they're wondering, how do you review your Business Central SaaS performance, and how do you know what is causing the issues or slowing down the Business Central SaaS application?
Yeah, that's a great question, Maddie. And to be honest, it's kind of a much more deeper topic. Performance issues can really spider into different types of areas. And I mentioned that the two different examples. The first one being potentially, again, let's take the example of a NAV customer that's been using the application for a long period of time, and again, sometimes excess data. Historical data can cause some performance issues, so there's an archiving function that is available. I also used the example of a number of extensions, and this was very much the case for Kemipex, where they had a very, very large number of extensions. And we've seen this actually with a few of our clients that have moved over to Business Central Cloud, is just some poor quality customizations that ended up hindering the performance, and also can cause major issues when there's some updates from Microsoft as well. So we've especially seen April and September as being those when the updates come to Business Central Cloud. If your extensions are not in a good state, you can actually end up seeing some major issues, and you'll end up being on the phone with Microsoft kind of thing. So I think in your case, Maddie, we would want to, maybe just have a high-level discussion in and around how you guys are leveraging the application today, and we can use some of our benchmarking to kind of find out exactly where you guys sit in terms of the performance realm. And we do have a methodology that kind of walks through different ways of, again, isolating what the exact issue is and getting it resolved. So hopefully that answers your questions. It's one of those things that we need to dive into a little bit more, but hopefully that helps.
That's great, Mark. Thanks very much. The next question we have here looks like one for Nasif. And the question is, how do you build the business case to the executive team for an ERP health check, like Kemipex, when you already have an IT team managing your system?
So actually for us, it was much easier because as I said in the earlier question, so we have disastrous implementation and we recover from it. And again, every month we get the inventory reports or even the financial reports. We had a lot of problems. So that became made our life easy to convince management that definitely we need the health check. And also, being EFOQUS, the reputation, and being Eric, especially his reputation sort of gave confidence to management that, yeah, this is the right person, right people to talk to, and this is the right method. Actually, to be honest, we approached EFOQUS with a different plan, but again, Lars has recommended to do the health check, but definitely we are very grateful that we did the health check before we dive into anything else. So we understood the problems properly, and I don't think if we followed our method, we would have never solved our inventory problem. Just because of the health check only, we managed to identify the inventory root cause of the inventory problem. So these ones were like, for us, it's a particularly an easy case, but then again, it depends on your organization. That's going to be totally different, actually.
That's great, Nasif. Thank you so much. Next question we have from Kevin, and Kevin is wondering, what is considered a low quality extension?
That's a great question. How do I answer that? Just like anything in life, there's different ways to approach something, and you still can kind of get the same final result. But ultimately, a low quality extension is anything that, anything ultimately that can cause issues, either with updates and with updates and upgrades, and as well as affecting performance. It's a bit of a subjective. Yeah, I would probably need to have Eric Hogard sort of talk a little bit more about the specifics about that. Unfortunately, I'm not that technical, so You know, it might be, Kathy, one of these things that we can maybe shelve that one, and I think maybe just we can have a follow-up with Eric to talk a little bit more about that. But ultimately, any extension that causes an issue, whether that be a performance issue or an update issue down the road, would be the obvious things. But again, we would want to dive a little bit deeper into the case of Kevin to find out exactly what their scenario is.
Absolutely, Mark. And we will have a follow-up blog after the webinar. So any questions that we don't get to today or any that we need to expand further on, just like the last question from Kevin, we'll be sure to include those in the blog. So yeah, keep your questions coming. We still have a few more minutes and still quite a few questions to get through. So the next one we have here is, what is the first step to getting started with the ERP Health Check?
Yeah, it's wonderful. So really, the process is pretty simple. Just reach out to us at info@efocus.ca, and we'll have you know, a first a welcome introductory discovery type meeting to learn a little bit more about yourself, the customer, you know, the issues that you believe that you're facing. Especially in the case of Kemipex, they already had some very specific fixes in mind when we initially met them, as Nasif described. You know, but again, there's going to be things that you don't know about, and so that's really where the value of the engagement comes into play. But yeah, just like anything in life, it starts off with a very high level conversation and just sort of establish fit. We're happy to provide, you know, client testimonials and recommendations as well, in order to give you guys some confidence. I do want to make mention, of course, that we are not the only Microsoft partner that does offer this service. There are other Microsoft partners that are out there. You know, really the value and the purpose behind this webinar is the need to just take a fresh set of eyes to look at your application. You know, maybe one that's not your partner of record, just so that way you've got an independent, non-biased opinion of where you guys are at. So again, there are many reputable partners out there in Canada, US, you know, Europe and Asia. And so, you know, if you're looking for some help in finding the right partner, you know, come to us. You know, we're happy to help. But yeah, anyways, starts off with a conversation, and then normally these engagements are not designed to be long drawn out engagements at all, 4 to 6 weeks. Generally, the cost of a health check is around $10,000. So roughly about 50 hours of effort, and that includes all of the discovery time, the analysis, the documentation, and the presentation back to the leadership team.
That's great, Mark. Thank you so much. Another question here. We'll take maybe one more question after this. So if you have a burning question and you haven't added it to the Q&A panel, please go ahead and do so now. So our second last question is, do you use the application insights from your tenant environment?
Sorry, can you run that by me again, Kathy?
Yes, for sure. So they're wondering if we use what's called application insights. I'm assuming it's a tab within Business Central from your tenant environment. Do we use that functionality to view insights into Business Central?
It's a great question. I don't know. I will have to conduct with our team regarding that. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, let's add that one to our blog, and we will pick the brain.
Great question,
Eric.
Yeah, kudos to ask Wes on them.
Absolutely, we appreciate when we get the hard questions, so keep them coming. Okay, and here is our final question of the day, and any others that are here we haven't answered, we'll get them into the blog. But the last question for today live is, a lot of issues seem to stem from implementation. Are there cases where you would recommend re-implementation versus correcting the issues?
Yeah, it's a really great question. We have come across some cases where a re-implementation is the right way forward. Typically in those cases, the client might be in a situation where they're, you know, maybe 5 or 10 years behind in, you know, in terms of number of versions, especially if they're coming from on-premise and want to move to cloud. especially if they're heavily customized, and maybe there's aspects of that customization that are no longer relevant, especially. In those cases, what we like to do is we like to start off with a re-implementation, a fresh Business Central cloud instance. And essentially what we do is we use the old nav system as, you can almost call it like a code library. We are all about sticking to standard configuration where possible, and then identifying improvement opportunities or opportunities to either say, hey, look, there might be a third-party extension that we can look at, or potentially a customization that we can build. But again, what we do is we try to leverage a lot of the code that was already previously done. And really, at the end of the day, that is to reduce effort and to reduce complication and to kind of move things forward and to reduce costs for the client. So yes, absolutely. Are there scenarios where a re-implementation makes sense? Absolutely. Absolutely, it does.
That's great, Mark. Thank you. It looks like we're just at time, so I think we are ready to wrap up.
Okay, so that's wonderful. Thank you, Kathy. That was wonderful. I actually really enjoyed that. Now, let's wrap it all up here. We got to a couple of next steps. So again, as previously mentioned, we're going to have a survey. So if you could just take a couple of minutes of your time, we'd love to hear your feedback. If you're interested in wanting to learn more about the ERP Health Check, you can reach us at info@efocus.ca. And then, of course, if you have any other related questions, you can reach out to us at any time. So we very, very much appreciate you joining us today, sharing your time. And again, we want to thank you. So again, au revoir, ciao, thank you so much. Nasif, we really, really appreciate you spending time with us. I know it's late in your evening, but again, have yourself all a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar.
Yeah, thanks, Mark, and thanks, EFOQUS, for this opportunity as well.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great day.